Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on Podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes now. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on Podcast. It's the Sunday service, but on a Saturday, so Saturday special, whatever. It's Easter. Who knows what's going on? Joining me today is Mark Bravery. Hello, you Mark. You all right?
Hello, I'm all right. Good, thanks.
Very good. And Jared as well. How are you, Jared? You all right?
You're right. You sure it's Saturday today?
I believe so. I don't actually know. I don't know where I am. I'm just pleased I managed to send out the emails in time because I haven't done the next show's one either, but I'll get there. So we're going to talk about the big game yesterday, Mansfield Town, and the trickiest one of our run-in that we were all kind of going, oh, well, we'll scrub that one off. we know we're going to lose there. I mean, it was a strong lineup, which was announced. They did do a little thing on, I think it's Ilkeston Town. They were training there the night before, and they showed a picture of the team. And it was definitely, we're getting back to full strength now. So that must have pleased you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to go first, Jared?
Yeah, no, just when I saw that, I mean, I think yesterday was probably the strongest lineup we could possibly do at the moment. I do feel, we got Will Randall's obviously having a great run of form. Enzio at the moment is perhaps, I would say, first choice at the moment. So I think yesterday was possibly our lineup we could possibly put out at the moment, and I think it showed throughout the course of the 90 minutes. For the last month or so, we were thinking, who will get to cover here, who got to cover there. But yesterday seems to have the numbers in, and it's nice to name a full bench as well. I see that just boded well for the whole afternoon.
Absolutely. And Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, after that horrible run of injuries that we had last month, it's good to be back pretty much to full strength. There's no Will Randall and no Alistair Smith, but I understand that they are fit again and able to play. We might well see them on Monday. I think it's probably worth pointing out that Mansfield had a few of their key players missing. In fact, I think they did when they came down to us last November. They're weakened by injuries, and I think there was one of their players suspended yesterday. So they weren't at full strength. But even so, I mean, take nothing away from the performance. It was a great Sutton win, a great performance, and everybody had a good game in a Sutton shirt yesterday. Even Ben Goodliff with that unfortunate own goal and the deflection late on, but apart from that, he had a decent game.
Yeah, he's not happy with the deflection being given to him, and I've watched it. We'll come on to that later. I've watched it a couple of times. I'm like, oh, but yeah, 5 goals, possibly all scored by us.
I think they were.
Yeah, the opener was a bit of a gift. Jared, do you want to talk us through the opening goal?
So, yes, I had a fantastic view of the opening goal. As I was somewhere between Mansfield Station and Mansfield Field Mill. But having seen the highlight, having seen the goal again on replay, it's pretty emblematic of what we are as a team. We pressure from the top, we pressure across the field. Every opposition player doesn't get a moment's peace in possession of the ball. I think we saw that. Yes, the fantasy was a bit lax maybe, but Omar had to be there. Omar had to be breathing down his neck to happen. And sprinting onto it, a nice cool finish as well. Great, great work from Omar there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get away from the defender made a bit of a ricket, but it's not just the game yesterday that made that defender make a ricket. Their defenders knew they're going to be chased down. So in the back of his mind, he knew that someone was coming, and that's possibly forced a mistake. Even then, I wouldn't have scored.
It's quite
Say that again.
So we scored quite a few goals like that this season, haven't we? Where we just worked on the defensive mistakes. Teams trying to perhaps play it back out. We just pressure defenders and into making errors. I mean, I think also I think of Isaac's Tranmere. Where again pressure on defenders and the goalkeeper forced the error of game-winning goal. It's just emblematic of the hard work we put in across the field for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and you'd agree, Mark, with?
Yeah. I was thinking of that goal that Tanto scored at Prenton Park. Although he had to beat the keeper, whereas Omar just basically took the ball round the keeper yesterday and just stroked it into an empty net. So there are similarities. It was also in a different sort of goal as well. But you've got to exploit these mistakes when they happen. They don't happen very often, but you've got to be alert to the opportunity as and when it comes. And Omar was yesterday.
Absolutely. And then we made it through to half time. I mean, obviously I was watching, so I had a slightly different experience, but apart from a few half chances, it didn't seem a huge amount of pressure from my view. What was it like being there?
Mansfield had a spell of pressure right at the end of the first half, but before that, they'd not offered a great deal, I didn't think, and they had a bit of pressure in the second half, of course. But I thought we applied pressure through the game, different phases of the game. And that told when we got the second goal early in the second half. And great work from Enzio there. Sort of fainted to go one way, went the other, left the defender and he choking in his dust, and put a wonderful looping crossover for David to finish at the far post.
Yeah, I mean, any goal scored at any time is obviously a good goal, but there's certain points you want to kind of hit that they would have been coming out with their half-time instructions if it's high, and then we bang in that second goal. Nigel Clough was not happy afterwards. I mean, he wasn't rude or anything, but he's just like, this is what Sutton do.
Yeah.
So, Jared?
I mean, Mansfield came out about a good minute or two before we did. So they were coming out there, coming out for half time. They were coming out, for the second half, ready to go. And so, yeah, it was just a great time to score a second goal. I think Enzio was so much of a problem for them. I counted about 2 or 3 different instances other than the goal yesterday where he just made runs sometimes from his own half, just breakaway runs where just couldn't handle him. He couldn't cope with what he was doing, and at least once obviously with Ajiboye's goal or Ajiboye, got the advantage, but I just think it was a classic away day. We defended in numbers, and we broke away, and we got goals. We need to get goals. It's just what you put as a classic away day performance for Sutton yesterday.
Yeah, and then on to classics, the own goal, just to make it interesting. The last few minutes, yeah, just one of those typical defensive. I don't want to say mix-ups, but one of those things that happen from time to time. Obviously, it's very easy to be charitable when we've still won the game, but Ben just done that backward header thing. Didn't realise Dean was out, and nice, lovely loop over him for a goal. But what a reaction to that! Was it 2 minutes? Was it 2-3 minutes? I don't know.
Something like that, 2 or 3. Yeah.
They scored 78.
Response.
Yeah. And there was suspicions of offside. What were you guys thinking when you were there? I'm seeing your face. I'm not going to let you go first, Jared, because I can see your.
Well, first of all, at least our team reacted better. At least the team reacted better than I did. As soon as the own goal was scored, my head were in hands, slumped down, thinking, oh well, here we go, 2-2 at best, might even lose this 3-2. I thought, I was pessimism mode, full on. Again, so needed to have studied the highlights for the first goal. I studied again the highlights for the third goal. It looked, at the time, I would never have thought it'd be offside. I thought it was a clear pass. Perhaps it's very hard to keep in line with offsides when you're down the other end of the pitch anyway. But then watching the highlights, it looks though, whilst he was quite a bit of a distance in turn away from anyway, but it was unmarked when the ball came through. He did look level with the Mansfield defender when the ball came through, even though it wasn't particularly marked particularly well. So, I mean, I don't think that's. I can see why in desperation you think it's offside, but in desperation why you think it's offside.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, what were you thinking at the time?
Yeah, I mean, we were behind the goal at the other end, so it's difficult to judge the offside from that position and that distance. But it was a long, beautifully timed, weighted pass from David Ajiboye, and of course, the offside applies when the ball is played. The ball was in the air probably for a second or two before it reached Richie Bennett. He obviously started to run at the right time, and clearly the officials were satisfied he was onside at the appropriate time. And I didn't think he had a great deal of pace, but he certainly seemed to put the afterburners on for that one. And a lovely finish as well.
Yeah.
Across inside the far post. Beautiful finish there from him.
Yeah, well, again, I listened to Nigel Clough's interview afterwards, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but his words were brilliantly timed run. So basically, it wasn't offside. There was people clinging, as you say, to desperation, but it was like, no, it wasn't offside. It was just another mistake from us. And then the one that Ben didn't like to claim, because Gandamonian did credit it to him, and he's like, wait, I'm not having that. It clearly deflected off Ben. I think it deflected off Louis as well. So I think potentially Dean would have had it, but deflection, he just went in. Yeah. Again, doesn't matter. It just gives me another little thing to add to my sheets of late goals that for some reason we have a reputation for conceding late goals, and actually it's not that bad. We score as many as we lose. But it was a professional job. I remember the game against them earlier in the season, and at the time we were getting lots of late drama. And the game earlier against them in the season was a bit like, can we just wrap up a game, please? Just get it done and dusted, out the way. But yesterday, although it was 3-2, it sounded close. We were always in control of that game.
Yeah.
Right. Now the hard bit, gents.
Best thing about this was the reaction to our goal. Was the reaction to their goals. Both goals. Again, there was no 30 seconds played before the final whistle, and it was just into the corner, no fuss, no huss. Whereas before you would have thought, consider goal, might give another one straight away. We had this tendency to give goals away in quick succession. We don't normally handle bad news particularly well. But I thought we handled both their goals yesterday, with very strong reactions there.
I think there's lessons we've learned all the way through the season. The Rochdale game is a case in point. We came back with 10 men to get a draw. And instead of just going, okay, well, we'll take that, we kind of were going, do you know what, we could get a winner here, and then we got hit on the counter. And then obviously at Wembley, we could make this 3-1. It'd be a wonderful victory, and actually would have been better off maybe just holding the ball. And but you learn all these things. So obviously yesterday we were like, no, we've had enough of this. But difficult job now. So player of the day. Let's have some nominations between the two of you. Who do you feel for player of the day yesterday? This is hard because looking at Twitter, there's about 7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, this is the opposite of the Port Vale game, which is the last one I did for this. In that game, it's very hard to pick anybody out because nobody had a particularly great game. The opposite is true of yesterday's game, where you could almost name any of the 11 as having had a great game. I'm going to throw Enzio's name in. I mean, he's been mentioned a few times already. I think he had the cross for that second goal, but I think his overall contribution to the game was pretty good. He had, as Jared said, he had a few penetrating runs. Didn't lead to goals, but caused their defence a few headaches. So I think he should certainly be in the frame.
Mm-hmm. And Jared?
Yeah, I agree. Enzo was fantastic yesterday. Definitely. Rob Wilson for me was I would say probably my choice. Again, I thought it was fantastic. Great cover defensively, added to attacks every time he went forward. It's great 90 minutes. Also, I think Harry Buteman has probably one of his better games. He's a bit of a stop-start season. Harry, it was great yesterday even. Control the midfield perfect. But as Mark said, you could have 7-8 players there from yesterday, and be thinking every man. But yeah, Rob Nelson for me.
Okay, so in actual fact, the 3 names I'd written down was Rob, Harry Buteman, and Eastie. So I'm going to chuck Eastie in as well to make it up to 4, and we'll put that to the little vote for the pod. They're all on Twitter, so they can't manipulate the votes. They can all vote for each other at once. So perfect timing. We're just going to move on to the now extremely big game on Monday. Keep on coming. But before we do, there is just one little thing I'd like to say. I'd like to say night to Kane, sweet dreams. Best review I've ever had. He falls asleep to listening to the podcast every night, so I'm trying to work out exactly what point he falls asleep. So night Kane. And to do the review or the preview, not review, of the Newport game, we're going to bring in Ed, and I'm going to read it this time because I got it wrong last time. 1912 Exiles, the Newport County Podcast. I got it right. Not the 912, the 1912. Hiya, Ed. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. Not such a great day for you yesterday. I saw you had to make yourselves cheerful earlier today.
Yeah, we did. So for those who haven't been watching Newport's story particularly closely, we've been sort of flirting with the promotion race at various points over the last few months. There was a feeling a couple of weeks ago that after a few home defeats, we'd sort of slipped out of it, but then we went to Swindon this time last week, actually, this Saturday, and we got a really good away win. I was there. Sun was out. It was a backs to the wall job, 0-0 at half time. But the longer the game went on, the more we fancied our chances of getting a winner, which we did late on. And then suddenly we thought, right, we are back in the hunt now. Our tails are up, and we thought, right, all we've got to do then, beat Crawley at home on Good Friday. They're already on the beach, right? That's the easy one. That's the banker. And then we've got the big games coming up against Sutton and Port Vale and some of the other promotion rivals. And so, yesterday the scene was set. Boiling hot day in South Wales. Big crowd, 5,000 and a bit were there. Sun was out again. Lots of people have been on the beers since about breakfast time, I think. And so it was all set up nicely for us to, steamroller Crawley. I heard one person talking about, we'll win this 6-1. And of course, hubris is a wonderful thing. So inevitably, we went and ruined it. Let in a soft as anything goal after about a quarter of an hour, 2-0 down at half time. Our heads were in the clouds. We were just all over the place. Got it back to 2-1, but there was a sense of inevitability that we weren't getting anything out of that game. And so I think that has probably now, well, if not probably, I think that has closed off the automatic race for us. And now it's a question of can we regroup for the playoffs? And the first sort of test of that is going to come on Monday against you boys. So I'm not sure it's the game we would have chosen to have necessarily. But, I've got to talk about this. The game we had against you earlier in the season at Rodney Parade is not just my favourite match of this season. It is probably one of my all-time favourite matches at watching Newport County because it was, horrendous rain. I got absolutely drenched walking across from the car park to the ground. 2-0 down at half time and thought, oh God. But there was just something about that game that I thought I wouldn't be surprised if we came back to win this, which we did with that late penalty. But I mean, that was a game that had everything, and I think anyone who was there felt privileged to have watched it, even if, you know, for the travelling Sutton fans, it was a day to forget. It was a real proper two sides going toe to toe and having a go at each other. And I thought, David Adgerboy looked incredible for you guys. So I'm keen to know how the rest of his season's gone.
Well, funnily enough, that game was kind of the beginning of our injury crisis, because we had to have our central midfielder playing at centre back, and then he decided that he wanted to spend a bit of time in your changing rooms, so got himself sent off, and we ended up having to have our centre forward play at centre back because we had no one else. And I was looking it up because I do remember listening to your one after that game, and I think you said very similar, and was saying actually even if we hadn't won that would have been one of my favourite games because it was so good. And you were very, very complimentary about David. He's only scored, up until yesterday, he's only scored one goal since. So he's been hot and cold, but he's now scored yesterday. So you'll be pleased to know he's obviously going to hit tomorrow.
Oh, great. Monday, there we go.
Full of the joys. So, Jared, I can't remember if you made that one in Newport, did you? He's gone.
It's not far for him to come because he lives in South Wales.
Yeah, I know, but I think there was something that I can't remember if he made that game or not. Jared, you back?
It obviously traumatised him so much that he's wiped it from his memory and doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
well,
but yeah, no,
I was there.
You're the sad one for me.
Oh,
I missed. I know my internet connection isn't so great. Once you get past Newport, I'm sure everyone know the technology just goes down and down in Wales. So, I missed Newport away. I was gutted because it was like my closest league game for like a decade. But I got the dreaded Rona the day before, so I had to miss it.
Yeah, I do remember there being something that stopped you going to that one. But yeah, Mark, you were there. Let's mock Jared a bit. So what did you remember of that game?
Well, I remember those two stunning goals that David Adgerboy scored. I mean, he's mainly known for his crosses as a provider, but he is capable of scoring goals. And he's also capable of shooting wildly over the bar. We've seen that a few times, but he just happened to come out with two worldies on that particular game. I think he had the Newport left back on toast.
I think I remember him being a little bit criticised for not using his left foot more. And I think both of his goals were left-footed on that game.
I couldn't tell you offhand, but they were certainly stunning finishes. One of them in particular.
From memory, one was a kind of mazy run, and then one he kind of lashed in from a bit of a way out.
That's right. Yeah, the mazy run was perhaps the more impressive of the two, but they were both very good strikes. But I think apart from him, I don't think we had a great game that day, and the score kind of reflects that. But we did, as you say, Mike, we had players out, and of course Craig Eastman was sent off when it was 1-0 for us, when David scored his second goal when we were down to 10 men. We felt a bit hard done by that red card, although after I'd seen the footage I could understand why the ref did send him off, but it did look a bit harsh at the time. And I think there was a slight feeling of injustice in the Sutton camp at the end of that game, but we're over it now.
Yeah, your season has gone on to better things, I think, since then.
Well,
don't talk about it. It's
still
going to be raw.
I'll hold grudges for decades. I think with Newport away, I think the key point is when Newport got their first goal just after half time. I think that just was such a big killer for us of the night. And then obviously the whole dynamic of the second. So instead of like defending a 2-0 lead with 10 men, if you could do it, 5 minutes into the half, you put 2-1 back in it, and a whole different kettlefish. Yeah.
It's the opposite of what we were just saying a little bit about yesterday's game. Is scoring that goal is a good time to score. Every time's a good time to score, but the season since then for you has been similar for us. It's been kind of up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, I mean, we got off to a very slow start to the season, and then Flynn left and Robury came in, and we then went on a really strong run. December was extremely good when we played you. It has now started to just stutter a little bit, I think. If we'd been talking 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think at that point I thought we'd definitely be in the playoffs, and I thought it was not beyond the realms of possibility that we might sneak into the automatics. Since then, we've now had 3 home defeats in a row. 2 of them against Hartlepool and Crawley, against sides who really, we should have been beating. I think there is a sense of frustration. Not that, it was certainly not underachieving. Newport being in the playoffs in this division is superb. You must be feeling a little bit the same. But I think the frustration we've got is we've got this trio of extremely talented young midfielders on loan. Finn Azaz from Villa, Jake Kane from Liverpool, and Ollie Cooper from Swansea, although Cooper's injured. But we've got these 3 incredibly talented, young, bright, attacking, creative central midfielders. We've got Dom Telford, who scored like 25 goals this season and, has been Newport's highest goal scorer in, best part of the generation. And yet we may not make the most of their talents. All 4 of those will be gone next season. The loanees will return to their parent clubs. Telford will go and play higher up the divisions. And we will have to start again really from scratch. And so this is a big opportunity for us now. If we can put it right, if we can put together a run in these last 4 games, get ourselves into the playoffs, and then try and regroup. I would love to see that trio of fizzy midfielders running around on the pitch at Wembley. I think they would absolutely fill their boots, and we would go into a Wembley playoff final and not bottle it, unlike the last couple of times. I think it would be so exciting to get there, but I just wonder. That defeat yesterday felt like a real punch to the guts. I'm not going on Monday. A couple of the other guys from the podcast are picking this one up. But I think there's a definite sense of trepidation. I think if we got a win yesterday, I think we probably would have fancied it. But I think now there's a slight sense of, this is all starting to unravel. So there are some real nerves in the camp.
Right. You guys, what do you think of tomorrow? Monday? It's not tomorrow.
I was just looking at the table. I noticed that both Sutton and Newport score a lot of goals and concede a lot of goals.
Yeah.
So I think it could be another goal fest. I actually quite fancy Newport to score, but I still fancy us to win. So I think a few goals, maybe even a reverse of the score at Rodney Parade, maybe a 3-2 to Sutton.
Jared, what do you think?
No, he's frozen again.
I think it's too hard to call, to be honest. Also, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yep.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be too hard to call. I think it could be a case of best show from us in a lot of ways after the effort we put in on Friday yesterday at Mansfield, and obviously Newport will go try to try to get and to agree with Bark and think it would be a 3-2 Sutton win, or any kind of Sutton win. I don't care at the moment, but I think it's too hard to call really. But hopefully we'll win. But I'm a pessimist by nature, so I expect not to win.
I think Mark is probably along the right lines. I think there will be a lot of goals because really at this point Newport probably have to go and get a win. And so I think we will probably set ourselves up a lot more for a much more attacking approach than, we generally go out and try and win games from the off anyway, but I think that will be even more pronounced on Monday. I can see us scoring. I can see us conceding. Who knows? I think it may end up being one of those like 7-8 goal thrillers where it just is kind of roll of the dice type thing. But I'm jealous for anyone who will be there because I think it will be a genuinely entertaining game.
Well, I'm the opposite. I feel that it's going to be like the second game at home after Wembley and all those extra fans who came to see the Leyton Orient game, which we enjoyed it, but it wasn't one to make people go, yeah, I'm definitely coming back to there. So if they've given us a second chance, I reckon it's going to be another one of those really dull, scrappy games.
Whilst it's in my mind,
Yeah.
there was one thing that I saw on our message board this morning that I thought I must ask you guys about, which is the cost of entry for away fans, which some of our guys were getting their knickers in a twist about and saying, this is scandalous pricing to go to an away game in the 4th division. So they were saying it's £25 for an adult ticket. And there was some confusion as to how good the away facilities are. So, reaction to that, any of you?
So some of this is but we've only got sit as an option at the moment.
Yeah. We're basically rebuilding our away end at the moment.
Yeah. So
as your fans will see on Monday.
Yeah. So it is one of those, but I think. Some of it I don't quite understand because I'm like, well, hang on, if we've only got the option to sit, surely we should be able to say, well, it's going to be the same price as it would be to stand. But apparently you're not allowed to do that. There's league rules against it or something. So yes, we absolutely hold our hands up. There's limited accommodation at the moment, and it is the seated price. But we're actually targeted. Strangely, we've come up and we're targeting the away end as all the improvements. So the away end is going to be lovely and shiny and new, and our end is going to be still hundreds of years old. So we may see it, we may not see it next year, but next season it will be a bit better. But yeah, it is one of those that you kind of like wish we didn't have to do it, but it is one of those things we have to do the work. So.
Yeah. And so because there is like a half-built new bit that's open now, is that right?
So I'm not sure if they're selling tickets for that. I haven't actually read an update on that. I'm not sure if they're selling tickets for that. It might be that it's a soft opening, so you buy your ticket for the seat, you get the option.
Right.
But basically, we had a temporary stand, which is now staying for another season. We had a stand, a terrace stand. Which held a small amount of fans. And then we built a brand new seated area, which is lovely. And then we've got another area, which is going to be a flexible area. It's going to be home or away, depending on viewpoint.
Yeah.
The stand is now going to be pushed back so it can accommodate more people and built higher as well. So it can accommodate more. So that's one of the things going under construction. And the other one is, so I'm not sure if they've had the actual sign off yet to sell tickets. So I think you have to have it signed off a certain number of days before you can sell tickets on it. So it might be there as an option if people choose to use it, but not officially.
Well, I will make sure that we get a full review of the facilities and the value for money from our guys.
The seats, I mean, we did get, because obviously we don't get to go down there because it's all blocked off. And there was a few criticisms of the view of the temporary stand earlier in the season. And so I went to one of the ladies' games. I went to one of the ladies' games anyway, and then realised I could still walk around. So I went straight in there and I sat there. So people put these things up. I don't know what they get out of it on Twitter, but someone put up this picture of this restricted view on the away stand. And what it was is there was a metal post about that wide in their way. But literally, they must have held their phone right in front of the metal post to have the view. Because all you have to do is go, move your head slightly, and you've got perfect view. But yeah, no, the new seated area is really, really nice. Yellow seats, which me and Jared have had lots of conversations about. What's the point of that? Everyone wants the whole stadium to have yellow seats. And I'm like, it looks good when it's empty. It doesn't look good when people are sitting in them. It just means nothing. But yeah, it's limited at the moment. And we kind of know that. But we also know that we're bringing it up as much as we can.
So fair enough.
I think it's probably worth pointing out that we're having to spend an awful lot of money on bringing the ground. It was a non-league ground until last season. A new pitch, of course, new floodlights, new away end, new turnstiles. And I think our chairman said right at the start of the season, all the extra revenue we're getting from being a league club is just being swallowed up by these ground improvements. Yeah. And that might help to explain why we're charging away fans a bit more than the average, because we need the money.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure it'll soften the blow particularly. It is interesting in the background. And from our point of view, I guess it's just jealousy that you own your own ground and you can do all this stuff. We are at the whim of the World Rugby Union. So,
but is it? I mean, I don't go to many away games, but from the ones I've seen, is it horrendously different? I don't seem around that 23 pound mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think it north of 20 quid probably is standard, but 25 felt like quite a lot to go to what is, albeit a non-league ground that's being developed, a predominantly non-league ground. So, like I say, people will always have their little whinge about it.
Yeah, I do. Again, I don't pay a huge amount of attention to this, but I do remember years and years ago questioning why our ticket prices had jumped up. And apparently what it is all the league clubs will put a bracket. They agree you can't sell your tickets for us below this much or above this much, and you can kind of do what you like in the middle area.
In that window, yeah. Which
I don't get why Sutton can dictate what Newport charge for their tickets. I kind of get it within London clubs where they might not want everyone or the clubs near you, but why we can all dictate to each other is but also it's the supply and demand. There's only like 500 of them, so obviously you're only here for the Sutton. And they get to see David in the flesh again.
It's up to me. I charge away fans £25 having the older way end, about a million miles away from the pitch, uncovered, and still charge £25. I'm not a human being, so
But yeah, that was kind of wrapped it up, I think. Let me just check because I'm very much a professional and I've got a list of things. No, we ticked everything off. Marvellous. So unless there's anything you guys want to add to it? No? Perfect. Thank you very much, gents, for your time. I'm sure you'll be watching on iFollow Ed. So
yeah.
The away fan, as you're watching it, will be to the left.
I shall keep a lookout, and I'll be getting text updates from Ian and Jamie. But good luck for the rest of the season. I hope Monday doesn't go your way. But I think genuinely, Newport fans have watched Sutton's progress this season, and like everyone else, has been very impressed with the way you've taken to the league like a duck to water. And I think we enjoyed the game we had earlier in the season, and some of the goals and the play I've seen from you throughout the season on the highlights packages and stuff has looked very good. So if we are in the same division next season, I'll look forward to speaking to you again. Excellent. Thank you very much, Ed. And Mark, Jared, thank you very much as well.
Okay, thank you.
Please follow on any of the socials at Sutton Podcast. I've kind of given up on TikTok, but I'm sure I'll be back on there at some stage. But give us a shout out if there's anything you want to mention, and obviously drop us an email if you want to be on as a guest. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
United!